everybody, my name is Nancy Braun and I'm here at my salon Balayage in Beverly Hills, and we're here to demonstrate and show you some balayage as well as L'Oreal's beautiful French browns. And so what I wanted to show you before I start to move to the side is we're going to spend some time today focusing on 2 and 3 points, right? And when I say that, I'm referring to balayage. So you can see here we have 2 origins, right? And here you can see we have 3. The idea is to keep enough depth in the hair so that it actually grows in beautifully. And so one of my little tricks is when I want to see a nice soft root, I'll sometimes go in and take a little dab of cotton just to dust that out a little bit, and therefore it will grow in even a little more gracefully. So I want to thank American Salon for hosting us today, as well as L'Oreal Professionnel. The focus today is really these red carpet Majorelle browns, and you may have seen some of that last night on the Golden Globes as you watched that. We had some beautiful girls on camera last night. I think Mandy Moore looked absolutely spectacular, and I think her brown was absolutely stunning, with Natalie Portman as well. So we take a look at our beautiful model here, Vina. With Vina, we prepped her today. So she's naturally a level 4 dark brown, but fine textured hair. And so on Vina today, we used 6014, which is a soft ash with a hint of copper, mixed with light brown. So that was a half and half mixture, half 6, half 6.014 with 20 volume. And so what we want to do now is we just want to pepper some highlights throughout so that we can get a nice contrast look, but not too contrasty. You know, she's got some kids at home, she's busy, but just like all women, you know, she's bringing in pictures where she wants to see, you know, she wants to look like the actresses, right? She wants that beautiful hair. She's got super, super shiny hair, and that is really an attribute to Majorelle French browns. I'm a big, big fan. Now, as far as my lightener, what I'm using is Blonde Studio. I'm using the freehand, and I've got actually a whole assortment of products here that I want to flash to so that you get the opportunity to see this. In addition to the freehand lightener, I've also added a little bit of Smart Bond, and what Smart Bond does is it helps to strengthen the hair. It's our bond strengthener, and it strengthens the hair during processing. So we all know that girls with long hair have fragile hair, so we want to create lightness, but we don't want to over-process it. And that's why I love adding Smart Bond. I'm also using this with 30 volume developer. But if you turn around and you see, I've got an assortment of products there to use that I absolutely love. So I love Platinum, I love the freehand, I love the multi-technique dimensional blue powder, and the Majorelle browns, which are absolutely stunning because they're soft. They've got a nice nuance of tonality running through. You see richness, but you don't see red. And that's what looks so beautiful, and that's what the clients are asking for. So I encourage you guys to ask questions, because if you've got any questions out there, we certainly want to answer them.
So Nancy, we have a question. Why balayage versus foil?
So great question. Why balayage versus foil? So balayage is something that has been quite trendy for the last few years. And, you know, I love balayage for how it grows out. It grows out with such a graceful point. And like I showed you in the back, you can just take a little bit of cotton and just soften that just a little bit so you don't get a hard line of demarcation. And, you know, balayage is something that's in trend. So clients are coming in and asking for it by name. It's an amazing technique. It's something that all hairdressers should have it as an option to use on their clients. And, you know, for those of you out there who really want to learn how to master this technique, we have amazing education out there. We have an academy, we have 3 academies, but we also have classes going on everywhere around the country. And we certainly hope to see you, because if you really want to learn this and master it, it does take a few years to really feel like you get it underneath your belt and that you've got it so that, you know, you can do it on any texture, any type of hair. See how I keep smoothing it and working it, gently dropping it.
So Nancy, we have another question. Maribel would like to know how many levels of lift is lightened?
So Maribel, so the question is how many levels of lift is lightened? And I'm assuming that your question is about the lightener, right? So our lighteners will lighten up to, it depends on which one you choose, but anywhere between like 4 to 6 levels. However, you know, it depends on the texture of hair that you're working on and what volume of developer that you choose to mix with it. Now, the one thing I love about adding the Smart Bond to our product is that it doesn't seem to interfere with the lightening action, and I find that's really important when I'm trying to get beautiful lift. On our beautiful girl today, we just want to create a nice golden brown, right? So we want to see some contrast and some moving pieces through here, but in a very natural way. And we actually have a pre-done model because we've been busy working this morning for you. And this is our model where we used a Majorelle Brown, and the Majorelle Brown that we used on her was a 5.015, right? So that's a medium brown, soft ash with a hint of red mahogany. And then we used Platinum Plus with 30 with Smart Bond added to that mixture because this young lady had some ends that were already a little lighter, so we wanted to protect those, and we wanted to make sure that the quality of that hair really stayed healthy. And so this is our result. We didn't tone this at all. We lifted it, and this is exactly the lift we got, and we are sticking with it. How do you like it?
It's absolutely gorgeous. I love it.
Yay! You've got beautiful hair. Very different types of hair. Super thick, coarse hair, and fine hair. So that's what I love with L'Oreal is I get this opportunity to use so many different products based on what's going to work best for my customer. And you know, this is the time of year where most people bring in pictures of actors and actresses, right? Who do you want to look like?
Ooh, who do I Priyanka Chopra looked pretty amazing last night.
Right?
Yeah.
So who doesn't want to look like that? So clients are always bringing us in pictures of these beautiful girls, you know, who have been underneath the lights and the makeup artist and the hairdresser for hours and hours and hours. And so I have a little trick that I use when I'm talking to them when they bring me a magazine is to take a look at that magazine, but to flip it upside down. So for instance, they bring me Gigi. And you really want to take a look at those highlights. You can really see the color when you turn that upside down and you see that kind of contrast. So you see, in this particular, the highlights aren't coming from the root. They're further away. There might even be some extensions in there, right? So it's a great little trick to flip it around to take the emphasis off the girl's face and really focus on the hair.
Nancy, Cecilia has a question. She would like to know any recommendations for when a client has gray coverage, but they also want balayage.
So that's a great question, right? So how do we handle gray coverage and they want balayage? So, you know, you have two options. You can either do a single process and color the hair all over and then add your highlights, or you can do a blend and do balayage, do highlights and lowlights. And that's a great option too for a client who wants maybe a little less maintenance to come in. And these are all things that we teach in the classes and the programs that we do. So I just want to, you know, bring the attention here and where you really see 2 points, right? A lot of space in there, so that's going to grow in really gracefully. If you feel like you're getting hot spots when you're doing balayage, go in. Use a little cotton. Sometimes I even go in, a little trick, and use a comb. Take a little bit of the product off just to soften it a little bit.
Nancy, everyone is loving your tips, so keep them coming.
Keep my tips coming. All right, well, I'm happy to share the tips because that's how we learn, right?
We've got another question from Kate. It says, when you are feathering up the base, are you saturating the back? Also, do you leave some sections without product?
Okay, great question. So, when I'm picking up a piece, watch what I'm doing. I'm gathering the hair. And the one thing I'm doing is, and I just kind of want you to notice, see the little flyaways? Look how I pull them close together. I'm not going to include those hairs, right? Because those little hairs are baby hairs. But notice what I'm doing. I'm actually painting on the surface of the hair. So I'm painting on the top. Look, underneath, there's nothing. And that's one of the cool things about balayage. And that's actually a difference from balayage to foil, because if I were to put a foil under here, I'd be saturating all that hair, right? So that's a total difference between the technique, which is going to give you a difference in the end result. So let's see. So that was the one question. And what was the second? There was a second part of that question, right?
It just says, do you leave some sections of hair without product?
Right. So that's a great point. So I'm not going to put product there. I did paint it on both sides of the ends when I got here. So I'm going to leave a space, and then I'm going to come in and add another highlighter. One of my favorite quotes is that music is made between the spaces between the notes, right? Same thing with balayage. Balayage is made beautiful when you leave depth and you leave some darkness there so that you can allow for the piece to pop. It gives it that background color, if you will, so that it can pop.
Nancy, we're getting a lot of questions about what lightener you're using. Can you remind our viewers?
Yeah, so for those of you who just joined us, my name's Nancy Braun. I'm here with American Salon and L'Oreal Professional, and we are using Blonde Studio freehand with 30 volume and a little dab of our Smart Bond for strengthener. And you see how I'm really working this piece, and I've actually got good tension on it. And I think sometimes when we do balayage, it's one thing we notice is that if we have too much slack at the bottom, we cannot get maybe the smoothest highlight. So I'm actually going to show you that. Sometimes people pick up the hair and they hold it down here. You really have to grab it and hold it so that you've got firm tension, and you almost create a flat surface, if you will. And that flat surface gives you something really beautiful to paint on. But if you hold it down here, you lose control. So in order to gain control, the main thing is you come in and you really hold it here, paint, paint, paint. Firm tension all the way through.
Nancy, some of our viewers would like to know also, do you use heat?
So great question. Somebody wants to know out there if I use heat. And I do use heat. I love using a roller ball, which is one of the tools that we have at our disposal to use. It puts out heat without air. But you know, I've worked in many salons with many people where sometimes they'll use a blow dryer and a diffuser to give you that type of heat. Some people use lamps, and the last resort is really a dryer, a hood dryer, because the challenge on a hood dryer is that it would heat up this part, but it doesn't heat up the ends, right? So that's always a little bit on the tough side.
Nancy, we're getting some great questions about what kind of tools are you using? Your brush, your planchette, etc.
So a few years ago, we were lucky enough to be able to get a balayage kit. And so the really cool thing about the balayage kit is that you get everything in this thing, right? So I'm using the large planchette, which is here, and I'm using the smaller brush, which is here. It comes with clips, and you know, you can just zip that up, take that with you wherever you're doing your balayage, and I absolutely love that we have that, all the tools that we need right there.
We have another great question, which is, how is balayage different from ombre?
So great question. How is balayage different from ombre? So ombre was a trend, right? So ombre was when you colored the ends, mid-lengths, and the ends. It made them lighter. Now this, you can see we're taking the highlights up to the root area. So balayage is actually the technique, right? So we use balayage as the technique, whether we start here at the root, or we start in the mid shaft, or we start in the end. So that's our technique, balayage, and then we follow whatever trends there are, you know, happening around the world. And you know, here in Beverly Hills, and being in West Hollywood, you know, we're celebrity driven, just like the rest of the country is. Everybody wants to look like somebody. So what we do in our salon is we certainly look at the pictures of the clients that, you know, the celebrities that they bring in, but we really focus on making that client the most beautiful that we possibly can, right? So finding what's going to work with her skin tone, finding what's going to work with her eye color and her lifestyle. You know, this is a client, she doesn't have a lot of time to come in. So the last thing we want to do is rope her into something where she has to come back a lot. If her hair looks great and she sees us twice a year, you know, we're happy. How about you?
I'm super happy.
You're super happy with that idea. So again, watch what I'm doing. I'm really using good tension here. Just a little bit of product, skimming that. Notice I start a little bit away from the root and then I work my way back. And again, this underneath bit is dry. And I put a little piece of cotton there just to support it as I finish out the mid-lengths and the ends.
Nancy, Amber would love to know, how long does it take you to balayage a whole head?
Great question. How long does it take me to balayage a whole head? It depends on, you know, how much hair the client has, but somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes, given, you know, the quantity of the hair. So I'm obviously a little faster because I've done it over and over and over again. But you get faster really when you have pressure. And my pressure are usually the next client coming in saying, you're running late, I've got to pick up the kids from school, you know, I got to get out of here, I got to get to yoga, right? So we're always, you know, trying to accommodate our clients, but we also have to remember that, you know, in order to get the result, we do need the right amount of time.
Nancy, also we've got a bunch of clients asking, what happens when your client has curly hair? Do you straighten it first?
So great question. What do you do when you have somebody who's got really curly hair? Do you straighten it first? So the main question is find out how they wear their hair mostly. So if they wear their hair curly, then I prefer to highlight it when it is curly because then I saturate it a little bit more and I make sure the way the curl forms that highlight is running all the way through. If it's somebody who's like a half and half, I like to smooth it out and have a smooth surface of hair to work on.
We have a question from Roy. He'd love to know how many clients do you do in a day?
Oh. So my friend Roy out there wants to know how many clients I do in a day. About as many as he does. Yeah, on any given day, you know, I might do anywhere between 10 and 20 clients. It was a pretty busy week last week. But by the way, I don't do that by myself. I do that with the support of an amazing team, you know, that I get the pleasure and luxury of working with every day. You know, amazing assistants as well as super talented hairstylists who are finishing out the hair and making sure that the client feels beautiful from from the moment she walks into the salon to the moment she walks out. Thanks, Roy.
We have another question about the lightener. Everyone wants to know what lightener we're using, and they also are asking, is it clay-based?
Ah, great question. So here we are. Here's our lightener. Is it? I don't know what I'm about to open right now. And it's a powder, right? So it comes in this powder container, and a little bit of it goes a long way. So I mixed some extra, just so that I wouldn't run out of product while I was mixing. And you can see it's got a beautiful texture to it. It really does glide onto the hair, and it lays on the hair beautifully for this technique. You can see, you know, it completely lays in there, and it doesn't spread, and it doesn't puff up. And those are two things that I really, really like. While I'm using it too, it doesn't souffle in the bowl very much either. So see how it's got a little sheen to it? That's another tip of mine. I always have a little bottle of developer here, right? Just so that I can splash it and change the texture of it if I need to. I might need.
We got some good questions, Nancy, also about how much do you charge for a balayage service?
Okay, so questions for pricing. Obviously, every market's different, right? So, you know, I'm lucky to be based in two amazing cities, Los Angeles and New York. And obviously the prices vary from those cities than the city I grew up in, which is Louisville, Kentucky. So it's going to be, you're more than likely going to charge for your highlighting service very similarly to what you charge for a foil. Now, what I would suggest is that you go to classes, you go to programs, you really, really learn how to get good at this. And once you learn how to get amazing at this, I would say you can increase your prices by at least 10 to 20% from a traditional highlight. So for instance, if you're charging $150 for a regular highlight, you could easily increase that anywhere between $30 for a balayage. But get good at it, you know, go to classes, learn about it, because that's how you become a true expert, is that you do something over and over again and you really learn how to master it.
Nancy, we have a really brave question from Edward. He says, I keep getting splotchiness. What am I doing wrong?
Great question, Edward, and thank you for your honesty in that. So you notice when I'm picking up the hair, again, I'm holding it taut and it's actually very flat. So if you're getting spottiness, it could be a couple things. It could be that your mixture's not nice and smooth, right? So that's one thing. And then notice how gently and how I keep working it, right? Over and over and over again. So as soon as I finish it, I'm constantly reworking that strand all the way down till I decide to put it down and be done with it, right? Now, Edward, the question is, you've gotten splotches, but the most important part is, how do I fix it, right? So when you want to fix it, take some demi-permanent color. So that could be Dia Light, that could be Dia Richesse. Go about 2 shades darker with a 6 volume, take a neutral shade, and just pop it out, right? So that should usually go away in about 2 to 3 minutes, and that's the fix. So that's the most important part. The hairline's super tricky, Edward, and it's not just you, it's everybody. So when I teach classes, it's the #1 question I get is, how do I get a smooth hairline? And it's really practice, 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 and make sure that you're really taking the time when you come around here, because that's what she sees. If you make a little mistake in the back, sometimes she never sees it, right? But if you make a mistake around the hairline, she's going to catch that in 2 seconds. Thanks.
Nancy, if somebody wants to practice, where can they learn with LP?
So the places that you can learn with L'Oreal Professionnel, there's 3 academies. So there's New York, California, and Denver. But there's also classes all over the country. So you need to find your educator, you know, your sales rep who carries L'Oreal Professionnel, and they can let you know. Christina, can you help me? They will let you know. Having Saran trouble. This does happen.
Actually, this is a good segue because people are asking, why do you use Saran over foil over mesh?
Okay. Did we get it?
Yes.
Yes. This is Christina, everyone. Christina's one of those people that I was talking about that helps me. So, and the question is, where do I get the Saran? I get the Saran from, it's a food service plastic. It's not specific, by the way, to our industry. So it's food service plastic. So anybody that carries, you know, paper items for restaurant supplies, that's where you can get it. I get mine at Long Island Beauty in New York, so that's where I have it shipped in from. But I love Saran because it's see-through, so I can see the processing. It's lightweight, and it just is better for this technique because of the lightness of it. So now I'm down to my last section, right? And what I really love that I can see in her hair is this beautiful hue. And again, remember my formula was 6.014, so it's a soft ash with just a hint of copper running through it, right? And it's absolutely stunning. She had some previous highlights. Remember, I added my Smart Bond to my mixture so that I have, you know, I'm protecting the lengths of these previous highlights. And super important is you want to mimic what you see on the other side. Women like continuity when it comes to the part and the hairline. So as I get her to tilt your head towards me a little bit, there we go. So I've got 2 points, 2 points, and 2 points. So I'm actually going to mimic that on the other side. This one steps down a little bit from here. But again, I want to give her something that is a low maintenance look, but that lasts her for a long time.
Stephanie would like to know, how long will she process for?
So great question, Stephanie. She will probably process for, let's see, I started the back. Let me just take a little peek here. Back's looking good. I will process her more than likely without heat for about 15 minutes today. Our other model we processed with heat, and we processed her for about 20 minutes. So again, different types of hair. Our other model had super coarse hair that was going to take a little longer to lighten. So we had to make sure that we got the result so that we could show you the before and after. This is a finer textured hair which will come up a little bit easier without heat.
We have a question about the part. Do you work right on the part or do you move the part as you're applying?
So great question about the part. I'm sure you guys have all had this where the clients are like, I switch my part. And I have it every which way. So she wears it in the center. So we are respecting the fact that she wears it in the center. But if it is a client who moves her part around, a great trick is take this area right here and just stack more highlights in it. So in other words, make your sections, if they were this big, make them a little smaller, and maybe put the highlights a little tighter. You know, and the goal here is to get the highlights to be like a soft 8.03. Something super, super soft as far as the end result.
Another quick question is, how long does it typically take you to fully apply?
So to fully apply a balayage, I usually book out 45 minutes, right? And the 45 minutes that I book out is an allowance for them to be a few minutes late, right? Because this is LA and they all complain about traffic. I'm sure there's no traffic in any other part of the world where you guys live. But I usually have 45 minutes for the actual application, then another 45 minutes to process. So you can see there's our end result. And we're finished with our balayage. Now we're going to process. Let's take a look at the back and let's see how that lifted.
And Nancy, when you get a moment, we'd also love to see a little bit more with the finished model as well.
Absolutely. So you can see the nice thing about the Saran is I can sort of manipulate it and put it exactly where I want it. So if I take a look, these pieces are finished. They're beautiful. And watch, I'm going to comb it out so you can kind of see. So you can see the lightness that we have achieved there. And that lightness, I can see the continuity of it coming all the way down the strand. So we're actually going to take our beautiful young model. We're going to pull the Saran out, see how easy it is to pull out. Another great tip, especially salon owners will appreciate this, is remove the cotton before you decide to rinse it out at the sink. That'll protect your plumbing a little bit. Okay.
And Nancy, let's give our viewers a couple more reminders on what the formulas are and also on your tools. They're dying to know about your brush.
Okay. So, on our finished model here, so make sure I get all the product off my hands. Yeah, we're going to rinse the back of her. Sorry. So on our finished model here, again, she's naturally very dark. She's naturally a level 3, right? And so for her, she didn't want it to have too much of a demarcation from her natural level. So we stayed in a 5 family for her, 5.015 and 6 actually, level neutral 6. We used on the root area with 20 volume. And we then took the straight tonal shade and pulled that through the end. So we eliminated the neutral and we pulled the 5.015 all the way through the ends. Then we did our balayage highlight. Today we used platinum on her. We added a touch of the Smart Bond and we did that all with 30 volume. Again, this was not toned. So this is the result that we got just based on the beautiful lift that we got with platinum. And you love it?
Love it.
You love it. Great. So there we are. So I want to thank you guys for spending the morning with us, and for those of you in the afternoon. It's been a pleasure on behalf of L'Oreal Professional, as well as myself and Christina for helping, and obviously the amazing support people that are here. We want to thank American Salon, and we can't wait to come back and spend more time and show you something new. Happy red carpet hair.